Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Justin the Food Entrepreneurs podcast. I'm Justin Bizzarro. I'm your host. That's Bizzarro. And anyone who's out there, you can find us on Spotify or anywhere else you grow yourself through podcasts, or on Instagram at Justin the Food Entrepreneurs. Today with us, again, we're back at Utopia Bagels recording. We have Michael Vendome of Nino's AQ. How are you doing today? Astoria, New York is where that one's located, but you have multiple locations. How are you doing today?
Yes, absolutely. Doing well. Happy that this weather's warming up a little bit, but yeah, definitely have that's the Astoria, Queens location, and I have a few other locations also in the family.
Cool. So, Michael, let's get into your story. Like, you're a younger guy. You're obviously entrepreneurial and successful. I can tell by the way you carry yourself. I can tell that you have credit, just being a New Yorker. So I just want to emphasize this because as entrepreneurs, we can often tell other people are successful just by the way they carry themselves and their confidence. And we know when they've been through hard knocks, especially to get to where they are. So let's tell your story. It's all yours. I'm going to give you the mic. You take as long as you want. More detail would be better at this point because you have such a complicated story, I believe, from what I've just briefly heard from Jesse. So let's get into that and then we'll continue.
Sounds great. Yeah. Thank you for the compliments. Firstly, it is a long story and it dates back to family, like always, and my parents and my family roots that are deep in southern Italy. So, my family comes from a line of farmers in southern Italy and, working off the farm, extremely poor, but made the means to survive. So, my dad and my great uncle decided to migrate to America to pursue the American dream. My father came over and a few of his cousins and uncles, I'd say with no more than about $20 in their pockets and a suitcase full of some clothes, whatever he had, just to get over. And they all lived together in a small little apartment, finding whatever jobs they could, whoever could get us employed. My dad started doing carpentry because that's what he found work as, and slowly built up enough money. And then actually he had a back issue and he had to start looking for a change of work. And my uncle, who's his cousin, started in the hospitality business, started saying, hey, why don't we start looking at restaurants and developing, we know food, we come from a big Italian family. So, they took whatever money they had and they launched a venture together in New York City. Yeah. So we opened up one location in Midtown in 1982. That's what I call the baby of the family. Yeah, that was Nino's Trattoria. And again, so, my dad worked there, my mom worked there, my aunt worked there, who's 99 years old now, God bless her. So that was the baby, and they launched it with not much knowledge. English wasn't great. Yeah. Let's say second language at most. My mom loved her to death, still has a little bit of an accent to this day. Yeah. And they launched, and they kept that place going till about 2013. We had like a beautiful 30-year run, and then in that location we had a devastating grease fire.
Wow.
Yeah. So one morning I get a frantic call. I'm about 23 right now. I just finished college basically, and I get a call, and it's one of our cooks saying, hey, the fire department is here, the place is on fire. And I still remember this day. I said, George, how bad is it? And he said, Mikey, it's really bad. And he had like tears in his voice. Yeah. So we all ran down, me and my brother and my mom.
It's just terrible.
And basically the store was completely done by the time the fire got caught. And then once, if you ever have a fire, whoever's experienced it, it's a terrible experience to experience. But firefighters come in and just fill the place up with water, so it's like half flooded, half burnt, half smoked
whatever
down.
Doesn't burn or smoke damage is now water damage for sure.
Exactly. So we had just bought a used deep fryer in a place in Astoria that my dad knew the guy, and he was looking for a deep fryer, and he said, hey, try this deep fryer out. Long story short, there was a malfunction on the thermostat, and it caused a grease fire, and it just lit up the whole place, got into my exhaust system, and then it lit up the whole place. So when I just graduated, it was basically like we had a little family sit down. We said, hey, what do we want to do now? And do you guys want to do this? Do you not want to do this? Because my parents said, listen, it's not an easy industry. It's a hard industry. It's a lot of hours. It's a lot of sacrifice. We went to school. You don't have to do this if you don't love it. So a part of me, I do love it, obviously, but a part of me felt that I had to take the legacy and continue that 30-year run.
And I'm right there with you right now. We did 24-year run, and I'm in a transition. I'm like, I need to keep going. There's the American dream that's been on my back. I am also from southern Italy, like half my family.
Yep.
One side of it. And instilled is that fight for the American dream. And there's a constant reminder of what the hell we went through and how much shit we had to go through, even family BS, to just get to where I am. So I think it's a huge driver. And one of the things I really love about the entrepreneurial story is that there's so many of us, particularly Italians, that choose, when our parents are like, oh, go be a doctor, take an easier route. We're like, nope, you guys struggled. We admire that. We're going to go do the same thing, and we're going to make our own life for ourselves. And it's not, and I used Italians just because I think there's a cluster that I talk about a lot in my life that comes out of southern Italy and the morals and ethics that came along with it. There's parts of Greece, I believe, that have come in and done the same thing. We see it in Astoria.
Absolutely.
And so I just use those two because I'm most familiar with it. One as an Italian, and two as my ex is Greek, like fully Greek. Mm-hmm. So there's like that understanding of the work ethic and the values that come into coming in the country. So you have all this instilled in you. You have the American dream. You're like, I could go back to graduate school. I could go maybe become like a therapist or something and get the hell out of the worst business there probably is in the world. And instead, I'm going to go right into it. Head on. So explain this to me.
So you got to preface this is that the restaurant raised me as much as my parents raised me. So like some of my biggest memories were in the restaurant. So during the summer, my mom always wanted to send me to camp and I was like, I want to hang out. I want to stay here. I got friends here. So yeah. So as I got older, at the ripe age of 10, 11, I would go to the restaurant like 3-4 days a week with my parents. And sometimes it was just folding pizza boxes in the basement. And then, slowly graduating, I would take deliveries that were only a block radius away. Yeah. And it was great because, I'd deliver a few pies and a pasta and I was getting a $20 tip at 10, 11 years old. I had some cash flow going. And so I grew up. So, every summer we'd spend there and then,
And you learn the value of money. I don't know how else to tell you. Like, there's a huge value of money in an entrepreneurial family and being able to earn your own money. My
dad used to always tell me, doesn't matter how much you make, it's how much you save.
Yeah.
Still to this day, he still yells at me. He's like, don't be spending stupid, you know? That's always been ingrained to me. So, like, when I grew up in that place, I always had it in my mind that, hey, I'm going to take over the restaurant. And I always wanted to expand the restaurant into other because that was my parents' place and we had the fire. We did rebrand it, but I always had grander plans.
Yeah, which is always like, and they also want to fry you because you're the next generation. Your parents always do better than me, which is something that doesn't happen very much anymore. I just talked to Jesse's parents about it. Mm-hmm. Like, the fact that our parents want us to do better than them just seems so foreign in today's world, which I don't understand, but go on. And I think that they were probably wanting you to venture out on your own and do well on your own.
Yeah, I mean, yes, with always with caution, right? Yeah. Yes, always with caution. There's always that little pill of, don't do this, don't open this, it's too much work, it's too much stress, it's not worth it. No, listen, my parents always want the best for me, so they have like a saying in like Italian where it's basically like, you live your life how you live your life, and then when you have kids, you live your life for your kids. You're no longer living for yourself.
Yeah, I know that saying very well.
Right? So, like, my dad's in his 70s, my mom's in her 60s, and still to this day, they'll do anything for me. So all they want to do is see me thrive and see me be successful. They want me to grow. They want me to be financially happy and, mentally happy, everything. They mean the world to me. Like, the bond that I have with my parents is, I think, very rare, and I don't think many people have that bond that I have when it comes to them. But yeah, they definitely wish me the best, and they want to see me grow and expand and and they're Italian, so make money.
Yeah. And the reason it happens, and many people don't realize the Italian thing, and we just talked to Jesse, and the successful kids or the next generation, that's us, have successful parents in the way that they raise us and the way that they drive in values. And the other part of it is they're hard on us in a way that's usually harder than most families, but at the same time they're driving goals and results, and they're almost corralling us in a way towards them, so they can be critical, I agree, and it can be cautious, but they are our biggest believers, and they want us to be better than them in a lot of ways, even emotionally for that matter. Like, it's just like every possible thing. When the American dream is so hardcore, or in Jesse's parents' case, so hardcore, and to do better for the next generation or the community or whatever, and you're instilling those values, greatness comes out of the kids. And you guys are all the similar story, and it's a similar story to me as well. When you're a high-functioning individual, like we're the three of us at this table, it came from our parents instilling that in us. Yeah. And I don't know, it didn't come from anywhere else. I mean, I was born an entrepreneur, but the hard work ethic, the discipline, the commitment came from my parents. And there was I have a bigger hunger than most kids, but my parents learned how to corral it and turn up the volume. And I think that that's what you're talking about. So what are the next steps? What do you do now? Do you stay in business with your parents, or you're like, I'm going to do this?
So my dad got a check from the insurance. It wasn't a huge check because it was an old insurance policy. And he basically said, listen, what do you guys want to do? You want to fix this place? Because you need a full gut, so you have to spend hundreds of thousands to fix the place. So it was like, do you want to buy a property? Do you want to continue with this? I'll pass this over to you. You guys can put up some money, and you guys want to build it? It's all up to you. So he left it to me and my brother's hands. So, wow. So my dad basically from that point retired.
And your brother's a chef, right?
My brother's the executive chef. He went to French culinary school.
Cool.
Got classically trained. Then he worked under taught English for a while.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
okay, so we're talking big names.
He worked in a few places, but he didn't. He always says, I wish I could have worked in a few places, but remember, we always had the family business in the background. So, he couldn't stage as many places as he wants to. Yeah, he's executive chef. He's tremendously talented and very innovative. So basically that was the conundrum. But this was, but it was also like we knew we had my parents had a clientele for 30 years of being kind of a pseudo-Italian luncheonette, which was almost like Greek diner-esque with big plates, huge menu, sandwiches. Yeah. And we knew post-fire we wanted to kind of change the identity a little bit. So, there was a lot of late-night talks with, like, don't make the place too expensive, don't make it too fancy, keep it the way we used to do it, and there was a lot of talks like, I don't know if that's going to work in the next 10, 15 years. We have to reinvent the wheel. And the first year was tough. We lost a lot of our customers. And then,
what was the changes that you made? Like, what did you decide to do that was different than the original
I just couldn't keep that model alive anymore. My dad was doing, my dad in the 80s and 90s was serving a pound of pasta for $7 when, with vodka sauce on top and huge portions and, meet and greet everyone, which I'd love to do it, but just the way food every year, expenses, labor, everything goes up, taxes. So we, our margins as a restaurateur every year shrink.
Yeah.
We're lucky right now in New York City to be even holding 10%.
Yes, and people don't realize that. Like the depreciation in the restaurant business on your margin is constant. It's constantly, no matter what you're doing, you're fighting the margin being eaten away by everyone else who doesn't do any of the work to sell the food.
Exactly. That's a whole other podcast in its own that we could have.
Yeah.
But yeah, so obviously my brother went to French culinary school, so he wanted to add a little bit more refined plates at nighttime. We knew that we didn't want to go too fancy or too upscale because it was a small little quaint 60-seater, but we wanted to kind of change up the menu a little bit and add a few twists, a few techniques. But we changed the way the look because the place looked like an 80s diner with stainless steel and pink and yellow and big glass bricks. So we kind of ripped everything apart. We took the original brick. We put like an old school looking bar. We put a wood-fired pizza oven. So we kind of made it more of like a cozy Italian trattoria feel instead of like kind of this 80s, 90s diner look. And, we changed some of the menu with it too. But, there were just some staples that we had to keep on. that, the neighborhood always, loves. And then we had a rough first year. It wasn't easy. And then eventually we transitioned. Then, we reestablished ourselves. Everyone came back, and yeah.
Doing this at 23 years old,
yeah, I'm not going to lie. I went to hospitality school at St. John's. I leaned on my brother heavy. If it wasn't a him, I knew what my parents taught me. I always knew how to dabble in the kitchen. I knew how to dabble in pizza. But at that point, I was raw, especially when it comes to the financials and the bookkeeping and the accounting and all the million other things that goes.
People don't even think about or know until they do it themselves.
Exactly. Serving the customers.
Accounting in and of itself in a business that's running business and complicated menus and taking orders and then paying out tips and paying taxes.
Yeah.
Like the sales tax thing is just crazy.
The sales tax is crazy. Payroll tax is what gets me the most.
Yeah.
You're paying tax on income that's already taxed.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay.
Yeah. I 100%
Where do I sign up for this one?
Yeah. Double dip all the way.
Exactly.
So let's talk about, you opened the restaurant now. Is it just your brother or the family's involved too, or is it just the two of you that are owners at this point?
So in the city location, it's me and my brother, the majority, and I gave some minor partnership to a few of my workers that are with me forever. So I have guys that have been with me 7-8 years, and I knew I needed a strong support system. So I gave them a chance to buy in, because here's the other side part. We were closed for COVID for 2.5 years. So we just reopened in August, because we were going back and forth. I didn't know what Midtown was going to be. And it was scary times. It was like, do we open? Do we not reopen? What do we do? At that point, I had launched a huge restaurant in Long Island already. So I had my hands kind of full.
Astoria.
I had Astoria location going. So we were going back and forth. And, I kind of met with a few of my workers that have been with me a long time that were trusted. And I said, we'll give you the recipe to try to help you out as much as we can. But you guys are going to have to help me run this ship. And they all agreed. And they were like, I gave them a chance to buy equity into a place, and so I have some small minority partners. Me and my brother are the partners, but I'm very happy to give away what I gave because, again, that's a success story in their own. That now they have a little bit of equity in a restaurant, which anywhere else would be very difficult for them to buy in.
Yeah, I agree with you. And so, how did you handle the COVID situation? And tell me about the other two restaurants also, but let's talk about COVID because you're in a little different space than Jesse, where Jesse's in bagels and people still come in and it was already a to-go business. Yep. You're in a sit-down dining situation, mainly.
We did some takeout, but where I am in the city, I'm on 46th between 5th and 6th, a block away from the Jewelry District. So all my main revenue streams are gone. There was no corporate lunch anymore. Gone.
Yeah, no corporate lunch. No one's shopping for rings or anything.
No one's shopping for rings. No theater traffic.
No theater, yeah.
No tourist traffic. I remember one day I went into the city and I went into Midtown and I felt like Will Smith from I Am Legend. There was nobody anywhere. I heard birds chirping in Times Square. That's how I knew it was a complete dead oasis.
Well, and I'll give a plug. My best friend from high school owns Romer Debos law firm, and they do real estate law here in the city, and they're real estate attorneys. And he would send me pictures of him walking by himself to his office just to check in on his office, and there'd be no one on the streets, like down Madison Avenue, and or 3rd, and he'd be walking down from 59th Street, and it'd just be him by himself and not a soul. And it was the weirdest thing, and I agree with you. I can't even understand it because Denver wasn't like that. I mean, we didn't absolutely go away and not hit the streets in Denver, but that is what happened here.
Yeah.
And so how do you deal with this? What do you do with your restaurant? Do you still pay your lease payments? Do you go to the government? I mean, at some point you're like, you're effed all the way around.
So obviously I have a good relationship being that I dealt with the same landlord for all those years.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
absolutely.
His best chance of success was me renting it versus anyone else. And so we kind of, we worked something out, But there were some rocky times. There were some times where, we fought head-to-head on some stuff. I was supposed to get a nice chunk of money from the Restaurant Revitalization Fund. And that's the fund that got underfunded by about 75%.
Yeah.
So I was waiting. I got approved IRS verification, and the money never came because the fund ran out. So that was like a huge disappointment, letdown for me. So at that point, it was kind of wait and see and figure it out, to be honest with you. It wasn't a concrete game plan. And I had the Astoria location, which was a little more residential. So I remember I closed for a week, and then I don't know what I was going to do. And I put an Instagram post on the Astoria location, and I put, should I open or should I close, as a poll. And a ton of, I don't have a huge Instagram following. It's like 6,000-7,000 people, but I got a huge response. It was like 95% yes. But a lot of people voted. I was like, all right, we're going to open. I said, I don't know who. So I started calling my staff. There was only one person that was willing to work, which was one of my guys in the back.
Really?
Yeah. Because people were scared, and not everyone was comfortable working.
Yeah, so it's just so interesting because I didn't live in that world.
Oh yeah, no, New York was a complete lockdown. So I told him, listen, I'll pay for your Uber every day if that makes you feel safer, because at that point it was like, don't take trains, don't do this, don't do that. Yeah. So he agreed to work with me, and then I really didn't know what to do because I only had one guy. I had a lot of product, and then I got to give credit to my friend in California, Sal, who owns a bunch of restaurants, Scopa Italian Roots. He started this concept and called it a Scopa Market, where it was, instead of being a restaurant, it became a pseudo deli. So I had fresh pastas, I had ricotta, I had prosciutto, so I just started selling packages of stuff. It was like, I opened the window, I had it cracked, and it was like, who wants to buy pasta?
Yeah.
I have marinara sauce, vodka sauce. So I was like, I became like a pseudo deli, trying to get rid of some of my product, giving away for cheap. And then we started doing more takeout. I did like a sandwich menu, some cheap pizzas. And then it kind of evolved. And then the big changer for us, the game changer for us, when they started doing drinks to go.
Yes, I wanted to talk about that, but go ahead. Talk about this a little bit.
When drinks to go started happening,
like alcoholic beverages,
exactly.
Right?
So I was one of the first guys to do like the frozen slushies. I was doing frozen Aperol spritzes, doing frozen Mai Tais, doing like really cool stuff. And kind of Dim Bars became like a pseudo bar crawl. So it was like, let's walk up, because no one was doing anything. So everyone was like, let's get a drink at Nino's, let's get a drink here.
Yeah.
And then it just became, and then that evolved. The weather started getting nicer, and then they finally let us sit outdoors. So I have a big corner over there. So I was one of the first ones. I remember I got the permit Thursday morning. It said your outdoor permit starts on Monday. But I'm like, how am I going to set it up on Monday if I don't have because there was parked cars there. So I called my friends at a construction company. I got some work cones. So one car left, I put 2 work cones down. 2 cars left, I put 2 work cones down. So the whole neighborhood's looking at me like I'm crazy. I have the whole street coned off. I call a carpet guy, I put grass down. I call my carpenter, I said, how quickly can you make me picnic tables? Because I have to use Saturday morning. So by Saturday night, my outdoor dining was already ready.
Yeah, because, I did the same thing in Georgia. It was like, how quick can I move, get down grass, picnic tables, try to make a business run here?
Exactly.
Because you have to go. You don't have a choice, and it's outdoors.
That's exactly what it was. So I was, I think, one of the first ones to start doing, I was one of the first ones I bought 10-foot palm trees. I added all the lights. I did all these, like, Miami crazy colors. And then, the outdoor dining that Friday, it wasn't even... I wasn't even using that side. I was using only my normal sidewalk seating, but everyone was already like, oh, wow, this looks so cool. And the anticipation started. So I said, I got to do something to give like these people like a little bit of a break, a mental break, a reprieve. So I threw a DJ like 2 weeks after that. And then it kind of got crazy for like 3-4 weeks. And then it turned into like a pseudo outdoor kind of party. And it wasn't even my intention. It was just like, hey, let's just play some music. It's outdoor because, we were told as long as you were outdoor, you were pretty safe, right? Yeah. I hired security to try to keep the distance for everyone. But, there wasn't many options. The city was closed, and Astoria had a lot of things going on, and it just, it became crazy. I was booking out weeks in advance on Friday, Saturday night, just magnums of rosé and tequila, and just everyone had fun. But, and we try to do it responsibly, even though, like, it looked crowded at times. And I think if you speak to a lot of people that were in Astoria in that time, they could say some of their most fun times of like this whole crazy pandemic was that little stretch that we had, just eating some pizza and drinking, having a few drinks.
Basically having a field party, basically in the middle of the street.
Yeah,
and it's like because there's no other choice.
There was no other choice,
and we did need reprieve. What happened? Like I can't tell you how. I think about how hard it was, and in the lockdown, and we were in healthcare, and so it's like. Your world gets so small. Mm-hmm. And so I love that you're just trying to survive and do the right thing for the humans, and you have success because of that.
Yeah.
So
you weren't even looking at it as a money point of view. You were.
I literally texted my friend. I said, Nino, people are so mentally shot right now. I said, everyone's exhausted. I said, I need you to give me a good set. I need you to just rip it and just take everyone's mind off it. And and he did.
Yeah, feel stress.
Shout out to DJ Nino Brown, good friend of mine. Sorry, I think a little plug.
Absolutely. And so do you use delivery service then when you were talking about the beverages? So you went to like DoorDash and Grubhub and all them? And
yeah, we were
so
on.
You were able to put the to-go alcoholic beverages on those platforms?
We were. It was legal as long as it was purchase of food.
Okay.
But still, it never sold as much as people thought it would to go. I think a part of the drinks to go, the experience was actually going to the venue, grabbing it yourself, and actually socializing and walking around and seeing people.
Yeah.
Right. It wasn't staying in. It wasn't
to get it at home.
Exactly. Because listen, if you really want to, you can go on YouTube right now and type in how to make a margarita. Order all this stuff off Drizzly and make a great margarita.
Drizzly,
right? Yeah. Or whatever kind of companies that sell booze. I think it was a part of the experience. I think it was just to get out of the house.
It was an excuse to get out of the house during a tough time.
Yeah, actually, one of the guys, a small side store that worked for me during the pandemic, was a customer of mine. He came every day to buy a pizza, and he's like, dude, I'm bored. And he was in hospitality. He's like, when can I work for you? I said, there's nothing to work right now. He's like, no. He's like, understand, don't even pay me. He goes, just let me know when I could work. I'll help you out. I can't stay in the house anymore. I need something to do. And he would ask me like this for like weeks and weeks and weeks. And then one day I wasn't feeling good. I'm like, do you really want to come help out? He goes, yeah. I said, okay. I'm like, come in. And he just started, he started working with me. He wound up working with me for a year in the pandemic. Yeah. And he was a regular of mine that came in all the time, and it was just crazy times.
Yeah, I know, and it's just so weird. Those times were so. What we did to businesses in the food businesses during that time is just
painstaking,
horrendous. And I can't believe that there were more food businesses than any other businesses, yet we just hit them so hard.
Yeah, I had one day. So the story got a little crazy, and it became national news because there was some parts of the neighborhood that was going every day partying until late hours, which we didn't do. I was only pushing it Friday, Saturday. It was pretty normal the rest of the week, so we got a lot of scrutiny. So I remember one day alone, I had 9 government agencies come to my restaurant. 9.
And because of a COVID violation,
because of COVID protocols or whatever. And then it just got crazy. It was like one after the other, and just showing them the same thing. It didn't happen to me. I seen violations being given because tables were not exactly 6 feet apart. The guy had measuring tape. Yeah. They were just like a little bit short. I seen crazy things. There's some stuff that I could only say off the record because I don't want to get in trouble. But there was some not cool tactics. Let's just say that it was very tough.
I agree with you 100%, and I didn't see it here in New York, but I saw it in other parts of the world, and just the extremism to prove a point sometimes, or to be right, I would say. I don't know how else to put it, but it hurt the businesses even more. You weren't helping by enforcing the rules. You were, in the way that we went about it, it just made things 10 times worse for the restaurants. And the reality is this, and I'm going to say this, there was no cleaner place on the planet than a restaurant that's operating during COVID, because restaurants are by nature the cleanest places there are, because you have to wipe down and clean all the time compared to any other business. You want to go to the worst place? Go to a corporate building that has keyboards and mouses and the people never wash their hands.
Sure.
And so it's just the weird, we just twisted life so bad, and we're like, it's the food and you can't have the food business. Well, hold on. That's the cleanest place there is. Like, it's cleaner than your own kitchen, trust me. And you may think it's not, but it is. Yeah. And it's that. So let's talk about what happens here. How do you survive this, and how do you get to the other side of COVID amongst, like, New York City is probably one of the worst places to go through COVID with any type of dining concept.
Yeah, it was difficult. So, like I said, we had the DJ going. We were busy every night, very busy on the weekends. Everything was going good. And then when we signed up for the sidewalk seating, there was a 11 or 12 o'clock curfew that no one really enforced. You were allowed to keep your guests out there. And then when things started happening, they started enforcing that 11 o'clock cutoff, which means you couldn't serve anyone.
All of Ditmars, right?
All the Ditmars. So crazy parties. They were coming.
That's kind of awesome.
They were coming.
I love Ditmars.
With paddy wagons, sheriffs, bulletproof vest, armored vehicles, with a brigade, sirens, we will close you down. It was like something out of like The Purge. It was like, we will close you down if you serve after 11 o'clock. Your liquor license will be taken. And when I say there's a convoy, I'm not exagerating because I have the videos of it. About 25 cars deep.
Yeah,
coming down, patrolling.
I saw some on YouTube obviously, years ago, or a year ago, I guess now.
So obviously that took the sting off us.
Yeah.
You know, and then we all had to like scale back and be super strict, and there were times I had to kick people out of the table. They weren't done eating. It was like 11 o'clock. I would warn them. I say, hey, listen, it's 10 o'clock. I know you want to order. By 11 o'clock, I'm kicking you out of the table. I said, I'm sorry. I know it sounds rude, but if you're here by 11:01, I can't risk a fine. And people like, yeah, sure. And then 10:55 will come, and I'd be like, here's two to-go containers. You got to go. He's like, oh, I want to finish up the drink. I'm like, I'm sorry. It's out of my hands. You don't understand. They're trying to take everyone's liquor license right now.
Yeah.
So it got extreme. Obviously that's going to turn off some people, right? And then I think the biggest detriment, though, I think all the restaurants were doing not bad. It was the second lockdown.
Yes.
When they re-locked us down, I say that was like a nail in the coffin in a lot of the industry, because you just kind of got back on your feet. You had some outdoor dining. You were doing okay. Hopefully you had some PPP or SBA money floating around, which gave you a chance gave you a little bit of chance to operate. And then you go, and then the holiday season went gone. COVID started spreading again. All the holiday parties gone.
Yeah.
And then I still remember they were like, "Oh, you could open up." Shows you just how like administrations are not run by business people, because they said you're going to reopen on Valentine's Day. How do you want me to prep for Valentine's Day? Yeah. And then he got so much scrutiny that we were able to open up February 12th. But after that, I felt like, for example, my place alone, at least 6 of my staff members moved out of the state.
Yeah.
That were just like, okay, I'm getting calls from Texas. I'm getting calls from Florida. My friends are making $1,500, $2,000 a week right now. Mike, I got to support my family. I said,
you got knocked down.
You
get knocked out again. How do you come back?
Exactly. I gave my handshake. I said, listen, thank you so much. You're a great asset. I wish you would stay, but I understand in your situation. Yeah. So I mean that was tough. That second shutdown, which I think that one was really, really tough. It was tough to get back on the feet after being open, close. It's just hard to gain momentum.
And I agree with you. There's no business people running these businesses, because if you understand, or a person that's been in sports maybe even, if you understand what you're doing to the human psyche, most humans don't bounce back from that second knockdown, especially in business, especially in this town. It's just too much, because it's already been a hard knock, and the first one was already hard based on how many times you've already had to pick yourself, in 9/11 in this place, and then the financial crisis, and then
absolutely.
When we weirdly had weird stuff like hoof and foot mouth, and the hurricane that flooded all of in 2012 that took us out and flooded how many businesses, and things like that. So it's just one of those things where it mind-boggled me when I agree with you. It's almost like we lost all sense of logic and reason, and we buried our economy and the people who had worked a lifetime to build it. And out of all things that you want to take out, it's probably not a food business, which takes the longest to build.
Yep.
And has the most of them. There's more food entrepreneurs and food people and employees than any other industry in the world. And we just totally weirdly attacked it, because I don't know how else to describe it, because it didn't go that way towards any other business.
Yeah, we got the wrath. Even I remember when the vaccine mandate came down in New York, and it was the first ones that had to get it were hospitality workers.
Yes.
And I was, whatever, you want to pass the mandate, that's their obligation, it is what it is. But I was like, how do healthcare workers not have to be the first ones in line over here when they're directly dealing with the virus every day of their life, right?
Exactly.
I'm not getting into the topic of not vax or no vax. It was just weird that the restaurant workers were the first ones that were teed up to get the vaccine. To me, it kind of it felt like it was kind of an attack on hospitality.
And I agree. I think that overall, I don't know why we did this. I don't understand as a country why we did it, but we really passed a lot of laws that hurt the American food business, the farmers, big industry, small industry, and really badly the food entrepreneurs who had worked so hard to build their businesses by that point. And while I will say there's a lot of strong entrepreneurs that made it through the other side, there's a lot of people that had built those businesses their entire lives that just couldn't make the bump and didn't have the resources or the technological know-how how to pivot. And it's hard for me to say, but one of the things I've learned is their survival, which is true, but there's also a lot of people that were in their 50s and 60s that had built businesses over long generations, particularly in mom and pop shops, and built relationships that didn't know how to pivot quickly enough and didn't know how to do it.
They didn't have the second generation behind them.
Yeah, they didn't have the second
kids to help them through it, or family members to help, but they didn't have the resources to help them through it, and they had to close down. And you see it all over the city. Yeah, stores for rent.
And I've never seen anything
out
like
of work. It goes even more into the workers, the employees that are working for these stores. It's not just the owners and the food industry and the restaurateurs. It's them too. They have families to feed. Now their restaurant that they were working at is shut down. They don't get their tips. They don't get any. Where are they going to go?
Yep.
And they don't spend their money at the restaurant, and they don't spend their money at the grocery store.
They're going to Texas. They're going out of state where these places.
A lot of people left,
and they need to make money.
Yep. Yeah. That also, what happened in New York also was that labor void that everyone's been talking about, and that labor gap. There's no one to work. Now, even when things are back to normal now, a lot of people are like, there's no one to work. I can't find anyone to work at my restaurant. I can't find a cook. I can't find a waiter. Well, part of that is because a lot of the talented staff got poached by huge hospitality groups that expanded in other states. Florida's booming. Yeah, look at every New York chain that went down to Florida. Every big chain, every big, major foods opening up there. Avra's opening up there. Huge restaurants.
Same Texas, Colorado's another one.
Exactly.
Because they pay high money to the hospitality, so they're getting all the hospitality workers, and the rest of the world's gone bankrupt.
Exactly. So you poached a lot of that New York talent because, a part of opening up in New York used to be like we used to have an amazing talent pool, and now, that all got poached. So that's like a post-dynamic COVID shift. I think that definitely happened.
Well, and then COVID stopped our immigration, which didn't allow new immigrants to come in, like our ancestors, to come fill those gaps in food or in laying bricks or whatever it is in construction. Also, not only food, so there's those gaps too. And it's it's a business decision, but how do we not know this from being a country for 200 years that this wasn't a good idea? But it's a whole different topic, and I will say this, and I want to talk about this because you guys, you're out the other side now, and we're in a different world. But what are you thinking to yourself at this point when they close down the second time? Because again, you're in a situation now where you've rebuilt, you have your employees leaving. Like, how do you and your brother have a conversation about what to do next? Even as owners, like you guys may be like, do we have to go get another job? I don't know what that looks like maybe, but how much are you struggling?
So I think when that second lockdown happened, it was like, you guys can still do takeout and you could do outdoor dining, right? And I remember trying to do it, as much as we could. And, so I built like a semi half enclosed, half open because they allowed some airflow. Vestibule that I spent a ton of money on. I had all electric heaters put outside, so I tried to make a comfy outdoor heating area. And I just remember one time just like watching, just was like a freezing day, my waiters are north faces taking the food outside, and I'm just like, why are we doing this? And I'm like, why are we doing this? And that day I kind of just got fed up, and I said, honestly, I don't even want to I'm going to keep the place open right now because whatever you guys are making, hopefully it's skin teeth. I said, I'm just going to, for me, I'm going to be operating at a loss right now. I said, so whatever you guys make for tips, but I'm like, I had to kind of talk with the staff, and they're like, no, we'd rather work. I was like, okay, because if not, at that point, I was just going to let's just close this till I could open up again. Because, you're serving food, and then it gets ice cold. Your guests are freezing. The floor's freezing. It just, at one point, it just got silly. It just got silly. It's like, it's not what you open, it's not
what you saw.
You open up a nice restaurant with marble tables and nice fixtures and everything, and you have takeout bags everywhere, and you have plastic cups everywhere. Now your employees are wearing, and I was feeling bad for my employees too. I felt like sometimes they were freezing at the end of the night, even if it wasn't busy or not busy, but constantly going back and forth. And
how do you get through that?
Exactly.
In a way, you were already you and your brother were prepared for that, dealing with the fire incident also, to deal with adversity.
We've dealt with a lot of trials and tribulations.
Yeah. You were prepared to battle. You were prepared to put your head down. Like you said, you were prepared to operate at a loss for the better of your staff, and just to keep trying to keep the brand pushing, which shows a lot. And if it wasn't for those values that your parents instilled in you, and you having to go through that time with your brother when it was just you two opening up the place from a zero, I don't know if you guys could have done it.
Yeah, I mean, there's 100% truth in that. Definitely some of the past experiences. You always grow from your past experience, whether good or bad or negative. There's always growth there. So that's definitely a huge key.
Why hold on? Because I'm glad that you did. Let's just be clear. This is not a negative question, even though it's coming out with a negative connotation, or whatever the word would be, connotation. Is that why hold on? Everything's falling apart. Why keep going?
It's kind of like at that point you're already, it's like
in too deep.
You're in too deep. Exactly. It's like a poker analogy. You went all in on the pot, and now what are you gonna? You're gonna fold before the last card.
Yeah.
So you're kind of in deep, and I did have a sense that shutdown wasn't gonna be as long as it was. We were all like. So it was funny. We had a group text with a bunch of restaurant owners in November, and we were trying to pick the day we were going to get locked down. So we all kind of saw it coming. So I think that also lessened the burden because we all knew it was coming. But we literally had a text what do you guys think? November 7th, 14th, 11th? Yeah. And we were all talking about the and we all said, watch him open us right back up before Valentine's Day. And it's literally we all called it
like a book.
Yeah, we all called it. So it was a little bit less painful because, listen, January and February, no restaurants printing money.
Yes, no
in
kidding.
New York, right?
Yeah,
not in this cold weather.
Not in any cold weather state. It's just a matter of just getting by.
So it was. I think that made it swallow it a little bit easier, saying, "Hey, okay, at least it's January and February.
Yeah.
They're not great months, anyways."
Yeah.
So I think that was a part of it, and the part was just like, all right, we're open now. Let's the staff make open. Hopefully, they can make a few bucks, make some tips, and pay my guys, and we'll just run kind of skeleton and a smaller menu, and we'll just try to keep our eyes on the prize and focus. Like you said, in too deep. You can't at that point. You can't just.
You've already burned the ships.
Yeah. What are you gonna do? You've been closed and open so many times now in different directions. It's like. Eventually, you just got to pick a lane and stick to it.
There was just a point I remember, because we were regulated, and they would come in and be like, "You unmask or mask," and then it'd be like, "No, everyone has to be masked." And I'm like, "Wait, everyone can be unmasked, but you want me to mask all my employees?" They're not going to be happy about this. They're already not wanting to come to work as it is.
Did you deal with the plastic dividers?
Yes, the plastic.
That was the best. I spent. Jesus Christ. What I spent in the past, I probably spent like $7 or $8 grand on plastic dividers, right? that everyone took their mask off, ate in between the plastic dividers, right? And then got to the bathroom, didn't have to need their mask on for the bathroom, and I was like, what is this really stopping? I'm making like mini jail cells for everybody. I was like, what is going on?
We had plastic dividers, and then only one
and eat in the middle of plastic dividers,
and one person per table, and it was just none of it worked ever. None of it made any sense.
Nope.
And we wasted how much plastic? I can't even. God knows how much plastic in the world has been thrown into the dump.
You couldn't find plexi during that time.
Yeah, you couldn't.
Well, that was the best because right before COVID happened, New York had this whole big, we're going paper and we're getting rid of plastic. And then COVID happened. You had gloves, latex gloves everywhere, and latex, which I understand, it happened, but it was kind of like, what a 180 we just
Here's my favorite thing that no one ever talks about. Literally 3 days before COVID happened, we were saving the turtles from plastic straws. And everyone was doing paper straws, and it was the biggest trend ever. Then all of a sudden, COVID happened. It's like plastic galore.
Everywhere.
Forget the turtle choking on the straw. He's going to choke on the whole fucking bottle now, and on the plastic, and on the lid, and on everything that goes along with the plastic. Because we just all of a sudden forgot all about it, and then just threw the plastic bomb at the world.
The visors, the gloves.
Oh my gosh! And how much hand sanitizer that we put into the world, Forget it. Everyone's like, oh, why is everyone sick from this again? It's because we sterilized the shit out of everything, and now we've created a sterilized community where everyone's getting sick.
I had some, I don't want to name them, but I had some people that were sterilizing their vegetables at home.
Yeah.
And I was like, what are you guys doing?
Yeah. I've seen that. I've seen it with their food. I saw people do it with their chicken, and I'm like, No.
Yeah.
You cook it. Cook it. It's a virus.
Yeah.
It's a virus.
Kills it.
Yeah, the virus
Kills it.
thing. Oh, and the other thing, we're humans. We're meant to fight viruses. Bacteria, we have a little trouble with. Bubonic plague, trouble. COVID, we might stand a chance. Just let it go for a second.
Yeah.
But it's, I will say this. I will say that I can't imagine what that was like. I know what it was like for me on my side in the trucks and the businesses, but being confined, and we were trying to do food out of Brooklyn ourselves, and we were healthcare, so we were a priority. But even that, you had to go around with a special permit, and our workers were pulled over on a regular basis for being out on the road and harassed, and why were they going and where were they going? And they're like, we're going to Brooklyn to produce food for the hospitals, for the compromised patients. And constant problems trying to get into the hospitals to deliver the food. And, you know, it's really, I did a podcast with someone else, and I can't remember the name of the group, but I was like basically the unsung heroes of COVID. And it comes down to all the hospitality workers. So while they were first in line to get the COVID shot, and I agree it should have been healthcare, one of the weird things is that a lot of hospitality workers still showed up to work, like here, and I hear about it, and you have it at your business, and when there wasn't work, they had to go somewhere else. But the ones who were dedicated and the ones who didn't leave the industry really went through a lot and took a lot of risks to stay in the business and serve food and get harassed by people sometimes because they were out working during COVID. And I think that that's a big part of what happened too. And I'm not sure how much you guys experienced that, but it was definitely like that. And then the other part was, if I was open, the amount of pushback from people that were mad because I was open and possibly spreading COVID, which was a whole other aggression that I had to deal with. And I don't know what it was like here in New York. I got to imagine it's worse.
Oh yeah, you definitely got a huge, I won't say huge, but definitely part of the population that were like, can't believe you're doing outdoor dining. I can't believe people are right next to each other, and I can't believe people are having fun, and a big push. I got like one or two, like I got DMs. I think there was a Reddit page going on about me at one point. My friend texted me. He's like, "Oh man, run a Reddit page. There's a flyer about us." I was like, "Congratulations, you're going viral."
Yeah.
I said, "There's nothing we're doing wrong. It's outdoor, man. We know that the spread of the transmission of this virus by now, outdoor, nothing's gonna happen. I wouldn't say nothing, but the percentages are small.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's definitely pushback from that. Pushback.
Infamous would be the word at this point, a little bit, and that's okay because I think that it matters to do the right thing.
Exactly. Like I said, like I remember when I went to speak to someone one day, and I was like, and I just asked them to because they were really emphasizing the 6 feet thing, and was using in New York City, I forgot exactly the guidelines, but we were supposed to enforce, I don't know how many hundreds of feet in front of our restaurant, which makes it impossible because it wound up being like almost a block that you had to enforce. You get a ticket for anything. So I went up to this guy, I said, "Hey man," I said, "I'm sorry, can you just spread out? You got to be 6 feet apart." And the guy just looked at me, and the guy was like 6'4", 6'5". He's looking down at me, and I'm pretty tall. He's like, "Hey man," he goes, "I just want to have a little fun, man. I'm not trying to do any trouble." He goes, "Can I just stand here? I just want to watch the restaurant be busy and stuff and feel normal, and like I just want to stand next to my group of friends over here." And I'm like, what do I tell this guy right now? This guy's like heartbroken. Like, you know what I mean? Because I'm trying to kick him off the block, like, because he's next to too many people. And the guy I was like, all right. And I'm like, just try to just spread up your friends a little bit. He's like, dude, I've been stuck in my house. And he just kept going. I'm like, I don't know what to say to this guy. Like, you know what I mean? I'm trying to do the right thing. And the guy, the guy's like heartbroken, because like everyone missed that, we're creatures. Like, we need social interactions. Maybe not everyone, but, to have zero social interactions and everything's on a Zoom and everything's COVID. It just got crazy.
And here's the crazy part. I'm going to just say this. As a Italian American, as someone who understands the American dream, as someone who has another half of my family that came over way before that side of the family, I don't even want to know what they went through because it's all mixed up. But we were on ships. We were pissing and pooping on each other with more diseases and viruses and bacteria than you could possibly imagine. And we knew we had to go through it, and we possibly would not survive getting to America. Like, it's a very real thing, no matter when it was. And you talk about $20 in your pocket. That's not enough to buy insurance, guys.
Oh.
or deal with the new viruses when you get to America.
I think my uncle Vincenzo, from what I remember, my dad and my grandfather, I think it took them 7 days to get here.
Yeah.
My uncle's boat went all the way down to Argentina. He was 31 days at sea to get here.
Yeah.
31 days at sea. Like, I mean,
so,
not on and it wasn't a cruise line, right? Right. This was like slipping on top of people, not much food.
Yeah.
But I know it took him 31 days by the time he left Italy to get back, and most of that was in the water.
Yeah.
You know, crazy times.
And people want to, and so to think about that, we purposely do this to people and put them in those conditions when the sacrifice we had to make there, and then people are mad and wanting to go in that conditions. Hold on. Do you realize that what we had to go through to get here, to put ourselves in that, yet you want us to isolate ourselves or do whatever in a similar way? Like, it's just a very weird thing. The other part that I want to tell the story is that really we were exposed to how much is why we would get quarantined in Ellis Island when it was open, because all the stuff you were exposed to on the ships or you could possibly be bringing over from a foreign country that they didn't want to come into the United States. And so it's interesting to me that we took such a different approach to COVID when we've dealt with viruses and stuff going across the country and we treated it so bad. So I just want to make note of that. We don't need to talk about it, but I think it's just important to understand that we can be so reckless as humans. And we can cause such damage because we think we're doing good, but we overshoot the mark. And the damage in the long run and the legacies is a long time, because
could affect millions.
You may be running your business right now, but we just talked about a short staff still and hospitality across the country. And so we'll get into that, but let's continue. So you start to get back open. How do you get back on your feet? How do you... I mean, there's momentum and everyone wants to go out, so that's going in your favor. But New York's still not as open as the rest of the world to people going out necessarily in terms of people's opinions.
I mean, I think so. After like that second lockdown, then we opened in. Then it was I forgot. It's like 10 stages of COVID. I forgot what stage it's in. But then we had a minimum occupancy of indoor. How many people we could fit in. So it was whatever your occupancy was. It was like 25%, then 33%, then 50%.
Yeah.
So if everybody knows, like, you know, little sidebar, no restaurant can make money unless they have their full occupancy available, right? We can't operate at 25 or 50% in these thin margins.
And it's a square foot problem. Like, if you're not maximizing your square footage and making it useful the maximum amount of time you can make it useful, which in the food business is like, like you have to. So go on. So we had that coming in, and you know, it rebounded, and it was like, okay, I could do 18 people tonight, right? and then I would say, and then it was a little bit of free fall, because I think at this point restaurateurs got messed up and we're just kind of over it. And I went to a few places and I was like, this place is packed to the brim. Like, you guys are breaking everything right now, because I think at that point they were just like, I don't care, you could just shut me down right now. Like, you know what I mean? It's over. It's over with. And also, like, everyone in the 5 boroughs, we got such a bad end of the stick because Long Island was fully open. Yeah. So all our customers were just driving. If you were on the borderline of Queens,
25 minutes,
everyone was. I went out to Long Island. I almost had a heart attack when I saw how busy these places were.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
I said, "Are you kidding me? I'm only a 15-minute ride from here, and these guys don't even have 6 feet. They don't even have 6 inches from the table." Yeah. I'm like, they're throwing parties. I'm like, well, what is it?
And after being shut down for so long, all the people need something.
And part of the problem is, if you're 6 feet apart, do you need a mask at that point? Because is it double? Are you doubling down? Like, what's the point of 6 feet and the mask? Like, I never understood. Like, it shouldn't be one or the other. Like, but we'll get into that another day, because this is where, like, humanity to me is like, wait a second, what do you mean? You're either 6 feet from me or you're wearing a mask. Yeah. Like, that's the point. So you shouldn't be 6 feet apart if you have a mask on, because you can't breathe on the person and they can't breathe on you. So what's going on here? But anyway, go on. So
so like, you know, so I think at that point, like, you know, like I said, Denmark's kind of under scrutiny. So, like, you know, I just made sure, and then we grew, and then eventually most of the COVID restrictions eventually got lifted, and kind of things went back to norm. And I kind of feel like, you know, people started going out again. But then also now was the city started to reopen. So now I think people started every spot that they missed, that they haven't been to, because the city, most restaurants were locked down the whole the whole time, not till they were almost able to operate fully open. So then I think became like
an influx of people trying to go back to
exactly. I would say the first baby steps of the resurgence of New York City hospitality was when everyone's like, "Oh, my favorite," and you name iconic restaurant, just put blank over here, open. I got to go visit them. I haven't been there in a long time, so I think that people started slowly migrating back,
crawling back into the
exactly
because
now yeah, exactly. So I think that was like when it got back to normal. And then I think this year, what I saw this year was the travel year, which was, summertime's here. Especially with like the remote working, it really changed the dynamic of like the 3-day
work from Aruba. And
yeah, exactly. So it really changed like the dynamic of like the 3-day weekend and Thanksgiving. I noticed that like, the holidays and the weekends where people used to hang around more. Now instead of just taking Thanksgiving off for 4 or 5 days,
because they missed their summer the previous year.
Exactly. So everyone's making up time. So they're like, oh, I'm going back home. I'm going to take this day off, work these 3 days remote, 3 days. So I'm going to be gone for 2 weeks. So I spoke to like a lot of people that were like, and same thing during the summer. Everyone, and rightly so. I think everyone's finally back into travel mode and going back out. So I think this was like, we're kind of getting back to society, hopefully,
So at this point now, you're going through all these battles. You're dealing with whatever shit gets thrown at you, and you're dodging it, fighting it, punching it. What gives you the idea in your right mind now to go open up a third restaurant?
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask.
Very simple.
Like, why go to this?
When I was going out there during COVID-19 and I saw every place packed, they said there's a demographic for this. No, I'll be honest with you. So it wasn't. The intention was never to open up a third restaurant because I did have too much on my plate already.
Yeah, that's how I always did that. That's how I ended up with like God knows how many businesses. So I was never intending to start another one.
Like I said, I had that successful summer when I was throwing little DJs and parties on Dip Mars. I said, you know what? I have this concept because I did it Miami-esque. So I had this concept to do a Nino's Beach kind of concept pop-up whatsoever. So I said, I want to find a location in the Hamptons or in Montauk.
Yeah.
And I want to run this pop-up. And I want to kind of do this like fun European
Everybody standing up,
little tropical, little European kind of fusion thing revolving around the Italian food, something that's kind of not really been done before. But I kind of saw that I was able to create the environment on a small street corner in Queens, and I thought if I could do a pop-up in the right location, we could do something really, really fun.
So
exactly.
The pain of COVID, let's call it the pain of COVID, the hurt, gave you an idea to basically create a pop-up restaurant that would be more flexible during times of economic crisis, basically. But let's talk about that.
So I was looking specifically for places with outdoor capacity, right? That, exactly like you said, that would be a little more flexible. For outdoor space and a waterfront space, I wanted to do something that really honed in on the European aspects of being on the water. So through my network, I started... people told me, like, hey, I have something in Montauk, I have something in the Hamptons, so I was getting a few deals, and I only wanted to open up a pop-up. And then I got brought through my network through this Port Washington location, and I saw this. It was in a marina with 400 or 500 boats, and I walked into the space. The restaurant's huge. It's a 10,000 square foot restaurant.
Jesus, this isn't a little pop-up.
No, 220 seater. At that point, I took it over. It was all demoed.
Wait, hold on. You were talking about a pop-up just a second ago. Just like you just broke my mind a little bit. Like we just went to pop-up to 220 seat restaurant.
Yeah.
So anyway, go ahead.
So, like I said, the intention was because I had 2 places and I already had enough on my plate. So the intention wasn't to really open this up. But I saw the location, and I was actually brought to a different location where I said, this is not going to work. And then someone in my network said, hey, go down the block. These guys are working on this location, and they need someone to come on board. And I opened it, and there was nothing there. It was just wood and a new floor. So the whole space was open, but the whole space is glass, and some of it was boarded up. And I saw it, and I said, this might be it. And then I stood in the space for like 15, 20 minutes. And I said, this is it. This is Nino's Beach. It's in a marina. It's 400 boats. It's huge. I could always build that mega monster restaurant that I wanted to build. And it won't be seasonal. It won't be a pop-up. It might not be full year round, but I think this is going to be what I want to do.
Cool.
And I developed a game plan, got my designer, partnered up with a few people. And then we kind of, I ran rampant with my desire went all over New York, had inspiration. I think I sent her 700 different images for inspiration.
Yeah,
right?
I'm that person too. I'm overload. Don't fuck around with me. I know what I want.
To build a deck, so like it was like all water elements.
Yeah.
So it was Capri, Amalfi Coast, Mykonos, Tulum, Miami, like all water places. We sent all this inspiration, and then actually we had a whole design, and I think I went too wild. So I scrapped the whole design after spending hours and days on this design.
I've done that too, where I get overkill.
Yeah, so that kind of part of Long Island where I was opening on the North Shore is kind of conservative. And what I was building might have been one of the sexiest, craziest restaurants in Long Island. But I was scared at one point saying, hey, these guys might come in here and they might say this is too much. I had pink stools. I had like a tiger print in the bathroom. It was very Miami Tulum. So then, like, in the middle of the project, I just scrap everything. And we start redesigning again. And we brought it back now into that kind of more of a Greek-Italian look with the greens and the whites and the beige. And it's a beautiful, beautiful space if no one's ever been out there. But yeah, so that was during COVID, the end of COVID, I decided to take on this project. And then I become, like, lead kind of design and consulted GC on it towards the end of it. Kind of just consumed my life,
And so how did you develop the menus then? Do you work with your brother on this? How do you...
Yeah, so my
because, it's not easy, and particularly in New York City with the amount of competition and how the menu, people do so much reviews, and there's... I mean, I hate to say it, but there's way too many foodies and bloggers running around that don't know what they're talking about. There's some that do, but there's a lot that don't understand in the way they do it. And it's great that they bring you food, but they're giving you also a lot of exposure sometimes that can be, they think it's good, but it's not necessarily good.
Yeah, absolutely. The whole food and bloggers thing is a whole nother.
Yeah,
it's everyone's an influencer nowadays. But
that's
we developed the menu. We're waterfront, so we wanted to have obviously some fish elements to it. We had a whole raw bar with the oysters and shrimp cocktail, all that. We're known for our pizza, so I put a special oven from Italy that's a rotating deck. And then kind of all water places kind of have that surf and turf steaks and chops going on. Yeah. So we had a whole steaks and chops menu. So we kind of had a vision for what the menu is, and my brother kind of was the one
Spicy rigatoni.
Yeah, spicy rigatoni is always lobster bucatini.
Yeah.
So
classics.
we did some riffs on, we did some riffs on some classics. We did an agrodolce rib, which is like a balsamic glaze that has cumin in it. Total fusion. So we wanted to do something fun. We didn't push the envelope too much, but it's a great menu.
Definitely.
Pretty refined. A lot of technique.
And Port Washington's a good area. Like, I know it's a good area to be in, so there's that as well.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we have a built-in advantage, like during the summer, that we're in a marina that has, like I said, X amount of boats, and then you get crazy. You get boat traffic, so you'll have a guy that's, hey, I'm coming from Connecticut. I'll be there 45 minutes.
Yeah, their bar is also unbelievable too. So even to just go have a drink and an appetizer with a buddy or something.
Yeah, I ran the whole. So the cocktail beverage program, that's what I run. So I did kind of, for the summer when we opened up early summer. I definitely had it focused on fresh fruit, lighter ABV drinks. So featuring mango, featuring passion fruit, cucumber. Trying to make them all visually stunning as long as tasty and easy to drink cocktails on a hot day. Nobody really wants to pound down like a stiff Manhattan when it's 90 degrees and you're on the water.
Kidding.
Yeah, so I try to develop the menu around those. All those items.
And so let's go back for a second, because you started off with pizza, right? What was the original Nino's?
The original Nino's was sandwiches, wraps, pizzas, pastas. Like I said, a huge menu. And then my brother took it over. Little small sandwiches, some wraps, and a lot of fresh pastas and pizzas,
Okay, so you've stuck to the Italian heritage for the most part. Even though your brother's French trained, he just takes that classical French training and brings it in the Italian food. It sounds like, based on the cumin and the ribs and stuff like that, we're starting to fusion things a little bit, which is French way of doing things, is embracing everything, utilizing whole animals, stuff like that. So very like sauce driven and important in the sauce, heavy or light, which people always think French is heavy, but France is a pretty big country, and so there's all different types of things. And interestingly, it does border Italy, which there's a lot of influences there, particularly on the cuisine. Even though Southern cuisine is different than Northern cuisine, it kind of just made its way through Italy, just so everyone's aware, and it has a huge impact on the food for sure. Let's talk about this because I've taken a lot of your time, and I definitely am going to have you back on, hopefully with your brother. We can either do it over the phone, or I'll come back out maybe and do it in one of your stores.
Cool.
Or in one of your restaurants over the next couple weeks. But I want to ask this question as we wrap things up, okay? Because I think that we're starting to establish on the podcast, and I've started to establish that it takes parenting, it takes an American dream or a similar instillment by parents to truly live the American and have the gusto and the purpose to get to where we are. So as a human, like, what are the core values that you think that you have that have kept you going and made you the successful person that you are? And I mean successful in that, and I'm going to use this definition, it's joy, it's the way you carry yourself, and it's I'll think about the other word, but go ahead and answer first.
Yeah, I mean, for sure, there's some core values I think that everyone needs. I think, like, obviously the first one is ingraining that hard work, right?
Yeah.
That hard work and that hustle,
Yeah.
right? That was ingrained for me at an early age. You know, save your money, work hard. Save your money, work hard. Save your money, work hard. That was always constantly a reminder. So I think hard work is always the backbone for everyone that's an entrepreneur. And I think the other one that's key is loyalty, right? The one that gets, like, understated.
Agreed.
But you want to really stick to the people that did right by you. You kind of want to grow with those people and take care of those people. I've seen way too many times with way too many people making money together, and then who's suing this guy and who's trying to cut this guy's out. And to me, it never made sense, right? It's like, why would you want to, even if you're losing a little bit of money, why would you want to break a friendship or something like that?
I agree.
So to me, like, loyalty and hard work are like the two values that I always, from my friendships to my work, those are like the two things that I always stick by me. And, like, you know, like, and that loyalty, you could lose it quick on my end too. If you do something wrong, it's done. But those are, you know, I think that's built in my fabric. You know, obviously there's many more cliches we could go to, but I think those two for me are the most important ones.
And I think as an Italian or any, well, actually, let me go back. As any kid that's grown up with entrepreneurial parents, they teach you about trusting someone, and they teach you about, like, people can take advantage of you, obviously. I think it becomes a big part of your education. And I think that that's part of what we're talking about here also, is that loyalty is not just someone sticking around to get a paycheck. It's actually investing in and being an owner, as like you are, and it's caring about your business, and it's more than just you taking care of them. Also, there's it's, I don't even know how to describe it, but your dream is supporting their dream and their family's dream. But there's also this weird thing that happens when you have loyalty. And, you know, people joke around about the Italian mafia, but it's a very serious thing in families, in Italian families, or families like Italians or Greeks or whatever, or even Jesse's family we just talked about, that loyalty is there because consistency and showing up all the time is how that loyalty is built.
Absolutely.
So just to suddenly not show up or suddenly break that loyalty, it doesn't make any sense, and it goes against the character of the human. And I think one of the things I really like that you said is that so much is based off of us being able to work hard and stay consistent in our life. It's not necessarily smart. It's just the willingness to keep going and not get tangled in everyone else's mess or everyone else's fears, for lack of a better term. So I said that was the last question, but I have one more for you, actually, because you just did something. Is how do you get over your own fears? Because like when I asked the question, I could tell you were contemplating something, and I can tell when someone's getting over a mental block. So how do you get over your own fears? Because you said the conscious thing, and I could tell we just went through a weird thing right there. So what was...
How do you get over your own fear? All right, good question. I say you have to face it head on, right?
Yeah.
And you kind of approach it, and I think fear comes from failing, right? Everyone's scared to fail, and I don't think there's anything wrong with failing.
There you
right?
go.
So I think from failing becomes knowledge, right? Another aspect, like, going off side restaurant, I had some investments go awry. Lost more money than I wanted to this year, but I learned some lessons from them, because I always feel like if you work hard enough, the money will be there. So whatever failures you have that they might set you back, no matter how big or small they are, if you're constantly putting out hard work, constantly being focused, you'll make it up, and you'll just be better because you're going to learn. In life, once you stop learning, you die.
Yes.
And I think that's...
We're in 100% agreement.
And I think that's it.
If you're not growing, you're dying.
Exactly.
Like, there's no
and especially in this industry.
Yeah.
Because it's always evolving.
So where can they find all of your restaurants on social media? Where can they find you on social media? And where are the addresses of each restaurant in case they want to find them? So
okay, so we'll start with Nino's Beach. Is at Nino's Beach on Instagram. At Nino's AQ for the AQ location in Astoria, Queens, and the other one is at Nino's 46 NYC. Astoria location is 3501 Ditmars. It's right on 35th and Ditmars. City location is 39 West 46th Street, a block away from the Jewelry District. And Port Washington is 43 Orchard Beach Boulevard in Port Washington, and Safe Harbor Marina.
Wow, you remembered all those addresses.
Yeah.
I thought I was the only one who stored things like that in my head, like useless knowledge of all the addresses and phone numbers.
And some horrible, cheesy movie quotes.
Yes. Yes, I do waste knowledge on stuff like that, too. I can't remember a song name or who sang a song to save my life. I know all the words of the songs, but I think I do anyway. Yeah. But I make them up, apparently. Like, I hear them wrong all the time.
I do the same.
And so one of the things I really like and I appreciate you coming out here is you're a real dude. Okay, so I'm going to leave the audience with this. One of the things I liked about this particular interview was the authenticity that comes out of you as a human. And it comes from the hard knocks of what you've been through, that you don't worry about it anymore. And you don't worry about what I'm going to think or anyone thinks, because you have the confidence to know you can get through anything because you've already done it. And you also know that your families went through how much to give you that opportunity.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
And so while there's confidence and success and ego, it comes from a place of experience, exposure, and education. And so I just want to anchor that to the audience, that it's very important that we have confidence and we have an ego, but it's in the right place and it's anchored properly. And it means that we can get through things and deal with problems that most people weren't willing to get through. And it does mean sometimes as an entrepreneur, we're the rebels and we have to push the envelope on things to get society to move along, where the non-business folks are running things that are detrimental to society. And when I talk about entrepreneurs being warriors, Mike is an example of this, because no matter what, New York City was trying to shut everything down.
1,000%.
And so the only way to fight it was through discipline, staying true to the humans in your community and doing the right thing for them. And there was a group of people in New York that did this, but it's an example of who you are and why your business is still around.
Thank you.
So, go ahead.
I think that's it for me right now.
Yeah, cool. And again, you can find us on Spotify or anywhere else you grow yourself through podcasts. Please share this. Thank you, Jesse, for hosting this in Utopia Bagels. Jesse's a rising star, guys. He's something you want to pay attention to, so you want to follow him.
The Bagel Master.
Yeah, the Bagel Master. I love it. And again, you can find us on Instagram at Justin the Food Entrepreneurs. We're out.